Okay, so we are here for an extended conversation with Jessica Fru and her book, Shove Your Shoulds. I'm so excited. Okay, so we talked a little bit on the podcast, and now I just want to ask you a few more questions. This first question I really struggle with, and I think a lot of neurodivergent parents struggle with, and it's kind of a weird question, but I often struggle with seeing family members who have neurotypical kids, and
Yeah.
not that they're neurotypical. That's not what I'm struggling with. It's
Yeah.
that they are seen like they get more attention at family gatherings. They're like the cool kids. They get, like they're just doing all the things that I imagine my kids would do. And I'm totally fine with my kids not doing those things,
Yeah.
but I am not fine with, like, I kind of struggle because I'm like, well, they're getting all the attention in the family and everyone thinks they're so cool and no one knows how cool my kids are. And so I'm like, I should make my kid, this is where the should comes in. Like, I should, like, have my kids do this. I should have my kids do this so that they're more like popular with the family, I guess. Do you have any suggestions for that?
Yes. So first and foremost, like this makes me teary because it's so real in so many different situations because we want our children to be seen, to be loved, to be known how we know them and their awesomeness and how beautiful and unique and cool they are. And so it's hard, especially in our families, when we see that maybe the connections and relationships aren't what we had envisioned them to be. And this does come from a lot of should, of what we think it should look like and how they should be treated and where our family, like what it means if our kids aren't seen the same as everybody else and aren't treated the same as everybody else. And I think that I have this thing that I'm actually going to post about that's called mini grief. I think there's a little bit of mini grief involved in this and maybe big grief. We think of like big T and little t trauma. I'm talking about like big T, like big G and little g grief. Like there is a grieving process of what we hoped our kids' relationships and lives would look like. And even when we accept where we are at and where they are at, and we are so happy and proud of them and know how awesome they are, even though their life is different than what we initially imagined it would be, there is still grief that comes along with that. And I think we want to push the grief away because we feel guilty for feeling it. There is a guilt that comes of, if I feel this, then I'm not actually proud of my kid. I'm not actually X, Y, and Z. I haven't accepted them fully. And that's not true. It's just reality that there is a grieving process. And part of the thing that can help us understand our grief or the should around this of my family should do this or my kids should do this so they are accepted is going in and understanding why we really feel that way. What does it mean about me? What does it mean? What's the story I'm telling myself about me if my kid is accepted? What is the story I'm telling myself about my family if they're not as involved with my child? What is the story I'm telling myself about my, like, the kid and what they should be doing so that we understand where we're coming from. And then we're like, okay, is this story serving me? Is it actually allowing my kid to feel safe? Or is it creating tension between us because I'm trying to push a relationship that they aren't ready to embrace or that isn't going to be embraced the same as I thought it should? And those types of things so that we can see where, you know what, this story and this pressure isn't serving anybody. It's not helping my relationship with my kid. It's not helping their relationship with this relative. It's not helping my kid feel empowered because they sense these things. They can tell. And it's not that we're bad or we need to beat ourselves up for holding it. It's that we need to allow it to be seen and let the grief be there, understand the story, release it and let it go. And the story is ultimately, I always say when we release stories that we're carrying, and I talk through this in the book of kind of how to go through this process a little bit. When we release them, I always say to thank them because they were keeping us safe in some way. They were trying to keep us safe. They were trying to keep our child safe. They weren't wrong. They weren't bad. They weren't anything. They just were. And so we thank them. Thank you for keeping me safe at this time, but I no longer want to carry this. You're no, it's not a story that's protecting me anymore, and I'm going to release that. And I think it's important to acknowledge that this happens in so many relationships, and it might be for a period of time that maybe my family doesn't understand or know my kids at this point in their life, but that doesn't mean they won't later on. But if I force something that's not true now and it doesn't feel genuine, they won't be able to connect and make that genuine bond later. There won't even be the opportunity because it's been so forced. And right now, one of the things I'm thinking of is two different relationships in my life. One that like definitely, and not my life, my daughter's life. It definitely doesn't look how I envisioned for her, and that's her relationship with her grandpa, her dad's dad. It's just not there. And it is because of so many different things, and she feels it and she knows it. And instead of pushing it and being like, you need to be the bigger person, you need to step up, I'm like, this is what I'm just going to let be. Because if the relationship ever comes around, it will actually be healthy rather than if I push it. Another one I think of is Matt and I had no expectations. So my current husband, I had no expectations of what my daughter and stepdaughter's relationship would look like. And we just let it be what it was. I mean, they have fought, they have loved each other, they have ignored each other, they have, and like some feels like normal sibling stuff, and some was because of outside forces, of being told things about my daughter from the other house. All sorts of things went into this relationship. And like probably 3 years ago, all of a sudden, they started to become really close, like really tight. And we've been married for 12 years now. And I was like, what is happening? And Matt and I would like tiptoe out of the room when we'd see them like connecting or be like, hey, do you guys want us to order you Chick-fil-A? Or like things that we knew they connected on and would have fun doing to facilitate it when we saw it happening, when we saw it naturally coming to fruition because they were instigating it. And now they are like best friends, total sibling friends. They still fight and get mad at each other and all of those things. But because there was no expectation of what the relationship should look like, it naturally came together in a beautiful way. Now, that doesn't always happen. Like it doesn't, but there was no expectation. Like literally, we would have been happy no matter what their relationship ended up looking like. It was okay. We were fine with it. We understood there are a lot of dynamics that go into relationships, but allowing those to happen naturally changes the game. So
Yes.
sometimes that's the most powerful thing we can do is just step back and be like, this is what my kid is comfortable with. Why am I pushing something that isn't going to create comfort for them or the people on the other side? Let's let things ride in a way that feels comfortable, even if I am like, this is totally messed up. And I should feel guilty because I'm not forcing them to engage. And I should feel guilty because they're on a screen at a family gathering, but that's where they feel safe in this group of people or this loud setting or whatever it is. Allowing them to increase their safety will build their confidence and allow them to speak up and feel safe and advocate for their own needs. And it's huge.
Yeah, yeah. I think definitely just not having expectations for a relationship. Like my kids are very different than me, where I
Yes.
do like attention and they like attention in their own way. They don't want to be
Yes.
the center of attention. They just kind of want to be and just let them do their thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so me expecting like everyone to be like, "Oh, they're here," and like showering affection on them, they would hate that.
Yes.
And so I just need to remember that not to have expectations for the relationship and just let it blossom
Yeah.
as it wants to, I guess. So
Yes.
yeah, I remember when I'm a lot older than my sisters, and so I have older kids than they do.
Mm-hmm.
And when my sisters started having kids a couple years ago, I was terrified that my sisters were going to have neurotypical kids who would be like the stereotypical build relationships easily, and
Mm-hmm.
they would be like the favorite grandkids. My parents never did anything to make me feel that way. They love my kids and
Yeah.
they love and I love the relationship that they have with my kids. But I was building stories in my head that
Yeah.
I thought was going to happen. And so I was doing things that I felt like I should do to avoid hap to avoid the thing happening that I was worried was going to happen. And so I think just stepping back and like, how do you not spiral into stories that, you know what I mean?
I mean, you gotta. look at it from this perspective of going back to this, which you just, this experience you had where you created this story and it didn't come to fruition. I always think, what did you feel in that time? What tension and stress came up for you during that season? How did it strain relationships? And I don't know, but just to get you thinking of things of, I created this story and this is what happened. And also, I had no idea what I was creating a false outcome. The outcome could have been true. It could have happened. But was I doing to prevent it actually going to help anything or prevent that? No. It's going to make it harder and more complicated because we have already created this huge issue in our heads. And so I think to release the spiral and to kind of like get ourselves back to what is first of all, anchor to that, to what is, and remind ourselves of, oh, I am seeing the spiral. I see you, brain. I see you, emotions. I see what is happening here. And I know that last time this didn't serve me. And that last time it didn't come to fruition the way I thought it was better and things worked out. And so when we can kind of circle back to that this actually could be a good thing, that none of these things I'm creating are going to happen and they're only harming X, Y, and Z, or last time it created extra stress or whatever, then we can kind of suck ourselves out of that and come back to what is now and live in the present. And it is so much of what we think our life should look like and what our kids' life should look like and what happiness for them means and what confidence for them means. And it's not what it is for us. We need to hear and listen to them and support them as they go because they're not going to want to do life the same ways as us. And sometimes that's infuriating.
Yeah.
But also it is the most beautiful thing to watch when we see them embracing it and it works for them in ways that we're like, okay, I guess that's what's meant for them. And it happens in so many beautiful ways when we allow it. I've stopped saying things like, when my daughter gets married, when she has kids, when she goes to college. I fully don't expect my kids to go to college. But like all of these things that we put on, like, this is the path forward. This is the way you do life for happiness. I've stopped putting those out there as this is how you have to do it, or this is what I envision for my daughter's life. Because I want it to be easy for me to release when she chooses what it is she wants. And I want it to be easy for her to come to me and talk to me about those things of being like, this is what I'm doing. And I'm going to be like, yeah, let's go. Let's do this. How can I support you in this? Instead of, are you really sure that's what you should do? Yes, we're going to have big, hard conversations. And also I want to be open to hearing and seeing what it is that works for her.
Yes.
I want to chime in a little bit. I think a lot of this leads back to that conditional programming that we have of what life is supposed to be, what the pathway is, what relationships are supposed to look like, what successful relationships, family dynamics are supposed to look like. And no one's ever going to fit in that perfect box, and you gotta let it go. Gotta let it go.
And I love, Lauren, that you brought up like what we think successful relationships or successful life should look like, because success isn't about what it looks like. It is actually about what we feel.
Yeah.
And so when we understand that and allow our kids to understand that and allow ourselves to support them in that of like, my kid, for them, success feels like X, Y, and Z. And so I can see how what they are doing lives into that. And I'm going to support that. Maybe that, like, it can look so many different ways, and opening up our brains to see that is huge. Most of us, success looks like safety, feeling safe to feel our feelings, feeling safe to be ourselves, feeling safe to feel happy, feeling safe to feel crappy. And for our life to not look like the person next door or our brothers or our sisters or my parents or anybody's. And so I love that you brought that up. Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I just want to give you, our last question is, if you could speak directly to moms raising neurodivergent kids who are trying so hard to get it right, because I know they are, what message from your book would you want them to take to heart?
You are doing enough. You are doing your best, and you are going to make mistakes, and that is okay. And that is beautiful. And like, it gets me teary-eyed thinking of us moms out there trying to get it right. trying to do these things, and to give yourself grace in the process. Again, you're doing enough. Remind yourself of that on a daily, maybe moment by moment basis. Doing enough. I am okay. My child is okay. I don't need to do this right. I don't need to do this perfectly. That does not mean I am wrong. That does not mean I am bad. That means I am human, and I'm giving space for my child to be human as well. To just be. There's so much pressure on us, and be gentle with yourself. That's the first step in the decision-making process, is to be gentle with yourself. And we go into that into the book. But yeah, that's the thing I wish more of us felt in and out of this space, is just, you are enough. You are more than enough. And sometimes you are too much, and that is perfect and beautiful and wonderful too. And we love to embrace love about yourself, about wherever you're at and whatever you're doing.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time again. And
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're awesome.
Amazing.